Good morning, good morning, good morning. What a lovely morning. Now, what shall I do? Shall I go the waterlogged but slightly faster route? Or shall I go the scenic but slightly slower route? Or shall I wipe the windscreen with a serviette, courtesy of some fast food outlet somewhere? Well, oh, yes. That is definitely done the trick. So, let's peep and creep, peep and creep. That's it. I've pepped and crept. So, as usual, how are you? I hope you're well. I'm still not pushing up the daisies yet. There we are. I'm established on the road. King of the road. Who sang that? Pop quiz. I'll tell you at the end. My mic is great. Mic tests are finished. It's well, not quite. There we are. That's probably where it needs to be. So I've now got it on the right way round and everything. I've processed all the videos, listened to all the audio on them all. I'm very happy with it. Let's just put that on. It doesn't completely knock out the background sound, but I'll tell you what does. The DaVinci Resolve has got voice isolation on it, and that is very good at recognizing a voice and promoting it, you know, relative to all the other noise, the other sounds, frequencies, you know, to give it their correct term. So that's what's responsible for eliminating most of the background squeaks and rattles and everything. I wouldn't say the noise reduction on the mic really does much. I know that the noise reduction on the Google recording does a fair bit, because that's what I used to use beforehand, and that was good. But it's not quite as good as having the microphone very close to your mouth and doing voice isolation in post-production. That is really the icing on the cake. So now I finally also resolved the question of what we call the mic, because it's spelled Lavalier, Lavalier, and I was wondering whether it was Lavalier or Lavalier, because after Maurice Chevalier. And in fact, it's neither. Believe it or not, it's neither. It's named after some 15th century, I think, or 16th century mistress of Louis XIV in France, who was in the habit of wearing pin brooches. And her name was the Duchesse de la Vallière, with a grave accent on the first E. Vallière, so it's a La Vallière. It's a La Vallière. If you want to be a real suit and, like, you know, really, oh, go on then, just bully your way through. Why not, Mr. Gotham and Son? So yeah, so it's a La Vallière. So I don't know whether anyone would pick up on that slight different call it a Lavalier mic, I think, or what most people in the business, like important people and you know, people like me in the business, call it a lav. So you can call it a lav, see, which is funny, isn't it? Because it's a bit of a play on the word lavatory, because that's shortened to lav as well. So you can say things like, I'm going to go and get the lavs. Anyway, good. So anyway, I hope you agree. Now, so that touches that. Now, let's get this into a dental footing, right? So how does that apply to dentistry? Well, I mean, they come in pairs, these mics, these labs, and I bought 2 of them because it was quite a good deal to get 2, and that also means obviously that if you're going to interview someone, you can have one and they can have one, can't you? So we're talking about something in excess of £100. I don't know whether it was in excess of 200. It seemed to me, I can't honestly remember. It was around about the £100 to £200 mark. Now I've gone through that finish, I know that the engine block has warmed up enough to pump some hot air on the windscreen. So now I'll turn the blower on and get the windscreen properly demisted. But, every day is a teaching opportunity. My granddaughter wants to know why the windscreen mists up when humans get in the car. So I was able to tell her all about relative humidity and how the glass is cold, and so the breath in our air, the moisture in our air condenses on the inside of the windscreen and causes the fogging. So don't, in the same way as, you know, if somebody comes in your surgery and says they smoke but they wish they didn't, which is never, you know, you can use that as an opportunity to give them the anti-smoking advice, but I wouldn't do it otherwise. If somebody's interested in a question, you know, you've got to satisfy their knowledge. Tell them while they're interested to know, because then it'll sink in, you know. Oh, all right, mate. You don't have to cut their grass. It's got a big old hedge trimmer on the side back there. You can trim hedges if they're up against the road any time of the day or year. But on the inside, where it's not against the highway, you have to, there's certain days between which you can't trim hedges. Every year we get letters from the, you know, on the Facebook page saying, why are the farmers trimming the hedges and all the little birds are flying out all over the place? And the answer is because the motorist comes before the little birds. Okay, just get over it. Anyway, where was I? So we were trying to find some sort of dental connection, weren't we? So, and I suppose the dental connection is investment, isn't it? It's what are sensible rules regarding investment in the practice? Now, there are various reasons why you might invest, and it's generally accepted the best reason for investment is because it's going to improve your productivity. So, and the classic example is 2 villages that are separated by a river and they club together and they pay for a bridge because it's going to facilitate trade between the 2 villages and save money or hay for the horses, because they'll be able to get to the other village much more efficiently than going upriver to the nearest ford. So you know, but that's not the only reason that people invest. You know, I mean, there's a multitude of reasons. I mean, for example, the dental companies used to sell x-ray machines when x-rays were paid for on a fee for item basis, on the basis that if you took like 4 of these OPGs a day, for example, it would pay the lease payment on the machine. So, and then the 5th one would be pure profit. So that's a sort of a financial greed, isn't it? As a reason for investing. If that's the wholly or main reason why you're investing. And then there's people who are coming up to the end of their tax year and want to spend money because they want to reduce their profit. Now, it's a fallacy to say that you know, if you spend something, it's tax deductible, because that makes it sound like you can deduct it off your tax, which you can't. It's not. And this is something it took me years to understand. I'm like, why has my tax bill not gone down because I bought X? What happens is your profit goes down because you bought X, and then to the extent that if it's a capital purchase, then usually, I mean, in the old days, you only used to be able to write it down over a number of years. In fact, it was, what's the word? It trended. So you could write off, let's say, 20% a year or something. So it never got to nothing, because it was always 20% of the amount outstanding. So you could get it right down to to having £1 outstanding, and then that next year you could only write off 20 pence. So it's asymptotic. Asymptotic is the word I'm looking for. It tended towards the value, but it never quite reached it. So a bit like Bitcoin issues. Sorry. I told you, always there. So what other reasons for capital investment? Well, I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but I mean, you can invest on a whim. You can go along to an exhibition and see a bit of kit and think, oh yeah, I quite fancy that, and buy it and get it installed, and then realise that it's a bit of a white elephant. It's not a... Well, let's put it this way. It may be that you may use it, and it may be that it brings a bit of money in, but it's never... what's the word? It's never going to wash its face. It's never going to pay itself back. It's an indulgence. Certainly not a financially sound investment. And I always quote this case of a dentist who invited us round his surgery for a postgraduate meeting, and we went to his washroom, and in the toilet he had gold-plated taps. And I said to him, what on earth possessed you to invest in gold-plated taps for your toilets? And he said, no, I just like the idea of it, I thought it'd be nice, like Louis XIV, to have be surrounded by gold. And I said to him, what's your return on investment in this surgery? How much do you consider you've got sunk in it, and how much does that investment pay you back? And he was like, well, I don't know, I haven't got a clue. My accountant might be able to work that out, but I don't know. And I was, I remember thinking at the time, well, you can't go around buying gold-plated taps and ignoring your return on investment. What you're doing is you're investing in a random way, in some sort of emotional way into things, and obviously gold-plated taps don't. There's no return on investment for gold-plated taps. You could argue that there is a small return on investment, in that the patients will go along and they will say, you ought to go to this surgery because it's lovely there. They've got gold-plated taps. But then it's equally likely that another patient will say, I'll go to my dentist, but every time I go to the toilet I get annoyed because he's got gold-plated taps. So he's obviously making a ton of money out of other people's suffering and distress. So, it cuts both ways. So the sort of, how can I put it, these emotional capital investments are to be avoided at all costs. And they can include a lot of the most recent technology. I mean, I can say, for example, 3D scanners, for example. I mean, I'd love to have a 3D scanner. I'm not totally convinced the technology is working yet. I'm not totally convinced that AI is working yet. Apart from AI image generation, which is, you can take or leave it. You know what they say about, I don't know what it is, but I know it when I see it. So that's, I'm not sure that voice recognition is wholly working yet. There's a ton of stuff. Windows is not wholly working yet. There's still, File Explorer is one of the worst programs I've ever used in my life. I have to struggle with that on a daily basis. And yet I haven't really come across anything that's a lot better. So there's a lot of things that aren't really working yet, but do tend to get sold. Another bad reason to do capital investment is because someone else tells you to. So for example, when HTML 105 came out, and it came out with two standards, a minimum standard that was expected in every single surgery, and an optional higher standard, which was, when you wanted to demonstrate that you're adhering to best practice. Now the trouble was, best practice was defined by the Department of Health, and they were pretty well not cost constrained in terms of what they bought. So, for example, if in a NHS, a practice where which is funded, a fully funded practice where the dentists are all salaried, they might have a washer disinfector, because all they got to do is make a case for, and then it will be found within the local area authority's budget, and probably be quite a cheap item at that. Whereas for the average general dental practitioner who's having to make the case for a return on capital on this thing, which was a fad in effect, they're far less likely to have one, and as a result, most dentists, in my opinion, were wise to stick to what was the minimum required, and if the CQC came calling, just argue that they are working towards the higher standard, although they haven't attained it yet, rather than go out and try and prove something to that they are not over compliant, but that they are, they're always like trying to one up on everybody. It's almost like, yeah, well, we've got a washer disinfector, don't you know? And I'm like, oh well, in that case, I've got 800 quid that you haven't got, don't you know? And a maintenance contract, and a servicing contract, and a consumables contract, and a bunch of staff, and a 2 foot square hole under my work surface that you haven't got, and a plumber's bill you haven't got, and all my instruments, because yours are always stuck in the washer disinfector, and a bill for twice as many instruments because that's how many you need. I've had many a quiet laugh at dentists who've bought stuff. I think if you buy a tomograph, computerized tomograph, CBT, whatever it's called, you're you must feel very happy and very proud of yourself. You'll have spent somewhere, I don't know, between 50 and 100 grand on this thing. But then what you have to do is you have to try and get out work from outside, because there's no amount of scanning is really going to support one machine in one surgery. And these things go out of date. When you're sold this machine, it's sold as the biggest thing since whatever. And then next year you find that you've got the old model that hasn't quite got all the bells and whistles of the new model. And it's the same with scanning. If you want a scanner, you can't just buy a scanner. You've got to buy it comes with a computer, which also comes with a trolley, which also comes with a load of Bluetooth stuff and Wi-Fi stuff, and and a maintenance contract, and some highly expensive software, which is free when you buy it, but it costs you £600 a month to have it updated, and the scanner won't work without it. So if you don't pay them, even our steriliser costs us £400 a month. Is it £400 or £400 a quarter? I think it's £400 every 4 months or something. And this is the thing with like two moving parts. This is the sort of thing where someone has to come along and pretend to maintain it for half a day every few months. Who's someone who doesn't say a word to anybody, but just stands around and with it in bits for a while, and then puts it all back together again. A bit like X-ray machine. X-ray machine got one moving part, the button, and they're still tested. Some idiot from Dental Directory who smells of BO comes around and can't even work the machine, and then 20 minutes later it says they're going and that they'll be in touch. A bit like when you have a blood test or an X-ray. They're like, well, what is, and they're so used to saying, I can't tell you anything. Your doctor will be in touch with you. That they start there as soon as you ask them a question. That's the reply they start, until they realise that that's not the question that you ask them. So, and I don't know. I know I've been in the practice a long time, the profession. But I had an X-ray machine for, I don't know, when did I bought the surgery in 84, I sold it in about 2004. So I had my PA strapped on the wall of my surgery for 20 years. And there was no requirement for it to be inspected. There was no requirement for it to be registered. I still don't think there's a requirement for it to be registered because it's not radioactive. This is because the plebs, the lay people, don't understand the difference between radioactivity and radiation. But, we have to duly send off our thing to the local council to tell them we've got an X-ray machine on the premises. So, investment's a tricky thing. Like I say, don't forget, all that happens if you buy something, it reduces your profits. And because it reduces your profits, it then reduces the amount of tax. In effect, you don't have to pay tax on the amount of money that and because these days most capital purchases are fully allowable, by which it means that you can claim them back against your profit in year one. In fact, there was even under the Tories, you used to be able to claim back more than you'd spent. There was an enhanced capital allowance to try and encourage investment. But, if you don't need something, you don't need something. And it's no use someone ringing me up. I'm 65. I'm about to turn 66 in 4 months. And someone rings me up and tries to sell me an OPG. You can imagine what I'm going to say, can't you? How am I going to repay the cost of that in what's left of my career? Seriously, I'm getting my old age pension in about 4 months' time. You can claim you can claim early for your old age pension. You can put in a claim 3 months early for your old age pension to start. All you need is your marriage certificate and that's about it, really. They really don't need much at all. But you have to claim it because they won't backdate it more than 3 months. So if your pension starts at 66 and you forget to claim it until you're 68, then all you get is 3 months. Fortunately, the NHS pension is not like that, insofar that I think I was able to claim mine at 60, and I didn't bother till I was 62, because I knew that I could get it backdated. So they backdated it all for me, and you do get it all. That's not as good as contacting me and bloody paying it, but which they should have done. But these people, they take all your money. Let this be a lesson to you youngsters. If people take all your money, they've got no intention of paying it back to you if they can. If they do, they pay it back to you in money that's been devalued so much over your lifetime. It's not worth anything. And they don't even want to pay you that. So just to finish off the capital investment example, supposing you buy something that's £100,000 and it's fully allowable, then what happens is your profit will reduce by 100,000. Well, you may not even have a £100,000 profit. I assume you can carry it forwards the way you didn't, the allowance, you can carry it forwards. But so then what happens is that, supposing you're paying tax of 20%, just for the sake of argument, then what happens is you save yourself. Well, you don't save yourself. You just don't pay £20,000 in tax. There we go. In we go. In we go. In we go. Right, I hope that's been useful. So a bit of capital investment, basic knowledge, all right? Not, consult your accountant. Don't listen to me. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.